And I've just got a few people still dialing in, but I do want to just check you can all see my screen. Managing seasonal stress. Is everything looking okay? We're seeing a giant bauble.
Yeah, can see it all.
Fantastic. So we are coming up to cover seasonal stress, very relevant to all of us at this time of the year, I'm sure. I will remind everyone that these presentations contain really general information and advice. If you do have individual questions, whether it's relating to individual treatment, mental health, I'll always direct you to your health professional, but I will open the floor to questions at the very end of this session. So there will be plenty of opportunity to get involved and raise questions that come to mind as we move through this presentation. So we'll be talking a little bit about what seasonal stress is. I know some of us celebrate Christmas, but some other people celebrate different holidays at this time of year. So we will be covering seasonal stress as a whole, talking about some of those triggers and some of the coping strategies to get us through, along with some practical, actionable tips that hopefully make this season a little bit easier for us. So we do have different seasonal celebrations taking place around the world. This time of year can be really crazy time for everyone, with very mixed feelings of joy, nostalgia. For some of us, it can be stress. You know, it's a time of year marked by traditions and gatherings and social celebrations, and they do vary across different cultures. I don't know if we've got anyone here celebrating a different holiday. Hanukkah, anything else? But we do have, you know, for most of us or some of us, it is a season that, you know, is about bringing people together, whether it's over shared meals, gift exchanges, spending quality time with friends, family, neighbors, peers. It's also full of our sensory delights. Who walks the streets and sees the twinkling lights and smells festive foods, gingerbread? So there's a lot going on. And so simultaneously, you know, stress can come about from, you know, balancing those expectations that are placed on us at this time of the year. It can come from preparing for gatherings, managing finances. It's not cheap at this time of year. Social obligations can be really overwhelming, and there's a lot of different sources of stress in December. So self-care at this time of year is really just as important as, you can say, spreading joy. So we will talk about the various sources of stress. We'll talk about how to deal with some of those. For some people, it can equally just amplify those feelings of isolation, loneliness, loss, sometimes longing. So it's really a unique time of year for everyone. And this is where I'm going to go back and remind us that mental and physical health are deeply interconnected. When we have arthritis, there is evidence. We know that stress, anxiety, depression can actually worsen our physical symptoms, and it can actually exacerbate things like inflammation in the body, cause changes in the pain sensitivity, and changes in the nervous system, can exacerbate fatigue. And this is because of the cascade of stress. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that is. So again, some people describe this time of year as the most wonderful time of year. The holiday season brings so much added stress due to various things for everyone: social obligations, family gatherings, gift giving, hosting. But when we're faced with these kind of pressures and challenges, we do get a combination of emotional stress, physical fatigue, and it can have a range of impacts on not only our mental well-being, but our physical well-being, especially if we live with a disease like arthritis. And during these seasonal transitions, arthritis symptoms can be exacerbated in a number of ways, and usually it's because of the increasing inflammation in the body. This can actually cause muscle tension, and this can thereby exacerbate pain. So it's a cascade of events that happen with this seasonal stress. We know in the body that stress actually triggers the release of a hormone called cortisol, and I'm sure some of us might be familiar with that mechanism. There are other hormones involved as well, but I won't focus too much on those. But altogether, they can increase inflammation in the body. And when we do have that increased inflammation, not only does it exacerbate pain, but it can weaken the immune system as well. So for some of us who find themselves often getting sick or frequently sick over this season, it's time to be a little bit more introspective and think about what could be causing that. Stress does reduce our body's ability to manage inflammation and manage stresses. So it can, in turn, increase that arthritis inflammation and, can affect our joints in a number of ways, whether it's pain, stiffness, swelling. Not only that, it is a time when we're meant to be resting, which, as we know, is good for our joints. But these holidays often involve periods of increased activity levels. Who goes to late night shopping at the Westfields and tries to get all their shopping done at once? Who finds themselves cooking a whole lot for the family and friends coming over, or even just decorating the house and making things look good, which is all fun, but it can be physically taxing on the body. We can often forget to pace ourselves at this time of year, thereby amplifying pain. So I've mentioned before there are a lot of different triggers of stress at this time of year. In Australia, we just mentioned how hot it gets during summertime where we're living. So we know temperature can get pretty high. Problem with excessive heat is that it can actually cause your blood vessels to dilate, can increase swelling, which isn't really good for already inflamed joints. It can make movement more uncomfortable. It can be difficult to find the energy to exercise. So as the body works harder to regulate the internal temperature, it can leave us feeling a little bit more drained. If we have an autoimmune type of arthritis, that heat stress can also trigger flare-ups, and this is where we can see changes in disease activity, which can amplify both physical and mental exhaustion and pain. Increased mental stress can come from a range of things. It can be the buying gifts, hosting events, traveling. There could be the burden of finances. Does anyone relate to that sense of running out of time? Often, if we have that pressure on ourselves to create the perfect holiday experience, it can intensify stress levels as well. There are often changes in routine that we see, especially if you're traveling interstate, overseas. Holiday meal times usually get drawn out. So where we normally in our routine having lunch at 12, sometimes we find ourselves at Christmas time having lunch at 2 or 3 o'clock and then dinner's thrown out. We do see often disrupted exercise schedules. As we know, exercise routines are essential for managing arthritis, but sometimes when these schedules get thrown out, not only can it amplify arthritis symptoms, if we see reduced physical activity, it can also lead to changes in weight, all which are detrimental to arthritis. Overexertion, like I said before, the shopping, the decorating, the hosting events, all of these can be really physically straining on the joints. So what I want to delve into today and focus more on are just some of the strategies you can look at implementing over this period of time to help you cope with that upcoming holiday season. We have a lot of coping strategies that we can talk about. We can talk about prioritizing physical well-being, managing mental and emotional stress, adapting holiday routines, practical tools for arthritis management, but also the importance of seeking out professional support to help deal with some of this stress. And, talk about self-care and joy. This means different things to everyone. So I'd love to kind of hear what self-care means to you. So I mentioned before, I'm not sure how many of us are actually familiar with how our body copes with stress, but we have a very clever mechanism where our bodies, once they detect stress, has the ability to activate a fight or flight response. Some of us know this to be a survival mechanism. It's a system controlled by an autonomic nervous system. So, what this does, it actually triggers the release of many stress hormones to deal with perceived threats. Now, I'm not saying that Christmas time is exactly a threat as such, but overexerting our bodies is sometimes one that can actually cause a temporary suppression of the immune system. So when this happens, it can lead to negative effects like increased inflammation, fatigue, and weakened immunity. Not only that, we have overexertion paired with things like changes in our routines, like not exercising. Maybe our diets change a little bit more. So, unhealthy eating, overeating, late nights, the socialization. And, as much as we want to talk about limiting and minimizing alcohol consumption, it does play a part in some of our holiday celebrations. So, what I want to talk about are just some of the things you can do to maintain our physical well being. There are absolutely things we can do to prioritize our health over this time of year while still engaging in these things that make the holidays fun. So, engaging in low impact exercises. If you normally have walking as a regular part of your routine, swimming, yoga, these are not only fantastic for keeping your joints mobile and preventing arthritis related symptoms like stiffness, can also be important for managing things like weight, staying social with within your community, staying social with your friends if you are someone who tends to withdraw from social events over this time of year. It's sometimes hard with the schedules that do get thrown out a bit over this time of year, but we can do things like if you have a very social evening ahead, it would normally involve making a few adjustments to your exercise schedule that normally happens in the evening and maybe swapping it to the mornings. Even just at least some gentle stretching or warm ups, some of us can put a lot of pressure on ourselves if we were to miss an exercise class or um, you know not be able to make our exercise classes with our personal trainers at this time of the year. These things happen, but even just some gentle stretching as a everyday part of your routine, warm up routines, these can be enough to prevent strain, protect against injuries, and also just manage some of those symptoms like stiffness and swelling. These are more associated with not moving. So it's important to just get something in your day. For some, it can be really tricky to limit those processed foods and sugary snacks and alcohol, especially when you're walking through the stores at this time of year. You see colors and all the sweet treats, and it can be tempting. But there are ways to make sure you're still eating a balanced diet, making sure that if you are going out for social lunches and dinners, you can choose meals that are predominantly veggie based or plant based. Include a lean protein. If you are going to someone's house and there is going to be a feast put on, making sure you're filling up that plate with at least 50% plant based foods, you can be sure that you're getting not only a balanced diet achieved, despite the energy intake of the meals, but you can also make sure you're getting that anti inflammatory nutrition in and maintaining that. Taking short walks after meals can really be great for digestion, but also maintaining those energy levels because at this time of the year, we know that they can peak and trough. It's very normal and that can be associated with overexertion. So just making that a part of your everyday routine. You can absolutely enjoy your festive treats, but the art of moderation is something we often talk about. So, again, going back to looking at what's on your plate. if we're able to balance some of those nutritious options like fruits and vegetables and lean proteins and whole grains, you can absolutely still make room for a sweet treat. You can practice balancing your diet, and don't be too hard on yourself when you do allow yourself to indulge in those sweet treats. I always say that food is more than just a sum of its parts. It's about the diet. It's about what we're doing from morning to night. So there's ways you can actually maintain that balanced nutrition at this time of the year. Staying hydrated is absolutely one of the most vital things for supporting joint health and digestion. Sugary drinks do come out a lot at this time of year, but we can actually make sure that we're aiming for that 2 liters a day. When drinking alcohol at social events, a trick I've always given to previous nutrition clients is that, try stay hydrated by having water in between your glasses of wine or glasses of Prosecco. It would be very unrealistic to say avoid alcohol altogether. We know alcohol is a big trigger for the flare-ups and inflammation in the body. But if you can stay hydrated in between, at least it can help with the other effects of drinking alcohol, like fatigue and muscle cramps. Another thing that often gets dismissed is the importance of sleep and rest. So creating a calm sleep environment can be really important at this time of the year because there's so much stimulation, so much sensory overload in the environment. Just little things like minimizing screens at least 20 minutes before bedtime, setting yourself a goal every night before bed and being consistent with it, like maybe reading 5 pages of your book. These can be really important for sleep quality. Again, the lights, the music, all of this can be sensory overload. So having just a routine embedded into your nighttime, creating a calming bedtime routine can really magnify your sleep quality. And we've actually done a webinar in the past on sleep specifically. And so it could be good to actually refer back to that webinar and check it out, some of the tips and advice we have for not only improving sleep quantity, but that quality. So mental well-being is an important topic to bring up at this time of the year. This holidays can lead to heightened feelings of anxiety, irritability, sadness, especially if you're prone to depression or seasonal affective disorder, if anyone's heard of that. So again, relaxation techniques, setting realistic expectations, and staying connected. With the relaxation techniques, we have spoken about mindfulness in the past and meditation. We actually have a relaxed program that is coming to an end, but you can enroll into it for next year and try working on just, I guess that mindfulness at this time of the year. I often talk about creating a relaxation space, if anyone's done that and implemented that in their households. So dedicating a corner in your home with soothing lighting, a cozy blanket or a fan, perhaps a diffuser, scents like lavender. Having a dedicated space to just take a 5-10 minute relaxation break can change a huge amount in your day. It can set a real calm, focused tone for the day, and using simple techniques like inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4. So deep belly breathing exercises can be very effective for maintaining that balance and well-being. Realistic expectations. So we do talk about avoid overcommitting during holidays, and this can be really hard to do for some of us when we struggle to say no. But we know, it can be hard to say no to people when we have a lot of demands and pressures from people in the family and friends. But I would my advice here is to pay attention to your feelings when someone is asking you for a favor or invites you to something. And this takes time to practice and it takes time to build. It's, if anything, a skill that we need to learn. If you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or resentful, this could be a sign that the answer should be no. So focus on embracing that flexibility, focus on enjoying those moments rather than striving to say yes to every commitment. It's going to be little small victories like saying no when we're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, that can help with maintaining your well-being during this season. And then staying connected. And I have a few sources that I'm going to refer you to after this, at the very end of this webinar. But virtual gatherings, social media groups, webinars, these are all the things that can help with providing a sense of connection. There are helplines, local community events that are always being run over this season. Sometimes it's just a matter of starting a small conversation with a neighbor. And like I said earlier, this season can really exacerbate those feelings of isolation, particularly for those who are unable to join family gatherings. And this could be due to mobility, it could be due to arthritis concerns, it could be due to distance or anxiety. There's a lot of reasons why we're not able to attend to things, but it's the emotional distress that can actually link back into your physical pain. And that's something we want to stay on top of. It can be a time of year that can feel quite lonely, as much as it's about celebrations and social connection. It can leave others feeling adrift. And so loneliness, I want to say, is just part of the human experience. It does happen to a lot of us. And while the holidays can actually magnify some of these feelings, it can be a time for quiet self-care, finding small moments of joy, and reaching out to others in meaningful ways to you. So it could be volunteering, it could be engaging with a local community, joining a club. But at this time of the year, you're not alone in feeling lonely. And that's really the main thing that matters. So adapting holiday routines. This is also really essential for maintaining your well-being and reducing stress, especially if you have arthritis. So starting with self-care and setting those realistic expectations. Again, going back and looking at what activities and tasks you have to get through. I would encourage you to actually focus on what truly matters, where your priorities are, and employ something like pacing. And there are people who can actually help you adapt pacing into your everyday activities. But things like shopping, decorating, meal preparation, these can be planned in manageable increments to avoid overexertion. So if you know these things are going to take up your day, make sure you're also scheduling some of that rest and some of that downtime, especially between events and social activities. Overexerting your body is the main trigger for a flare up, and increased stiffness, pain, swelling, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis. It's overdoing it in general. So early intervention is key here. This is why we talk a lot about resting, and then making sure you actually have your pain management tools on board. So if you respond really well to heat packs or cold therapies like ice packs, medication, analgesia, if these help with arthritis related symptoms, make sure you're prepared with those things to help prevent a full flare from occurring. It's all about that early intervention. Activities can be simplified. So again, if you're someone who rushes to the shops, especially late night shopping time, has anyone dipped into the world of online shopping? Especially relevant at during this week with Black Friday sales going on. something like online shopping, it's not for everyone. If you're not comfortable or familiar with how to do online shopping at Christmas time, there are people at the library who can actually help you navigate your technology and teach you how to use your iPhones, computers, and you could actually use their resources to help navigate that. Just because if we were to look at the energy that goes into physical shopping, online shopping can help with that physical strain and the stress that comes with crowded stores. You can delegate tasks to others to lighten your load, and don't be afraid to speak out if you need some help, but asking for help with cooking or errands. And some of the resources that I link you into at the end of this webinar, they might even have some connections within their networks to help out with this. And I want to go back and talk about the importance of sticking to a routine, because if you can find a routine that helps you with things like managing hydration, maintaining a regular sleep schedule, reducing fatigue, these are going to be really important during those extremely busy days. And it's important to be realistic with those expectations. It can make a massive difference to the symptoms you would normally associate with overexertion and fatigue. So professional support, so engaging with those healthcare providers, schedule those check-ins with either your rheumatologist, but they can be hard to get into sometimes, your physical therapist, like your physio, occupational therapist, exercise physiologist, general practitioner, whoever you see on a regular basis is probably going to be the best person to talk to about flare-up prevention. So that's going to be a really important topic to cover. Preventing flare-ups in arthritis, it really requires dialing up that self-care, and it can be hard for us when we don't normally put ourselves first. But lifestyle adjustments, proactive management of triggers, all of these can be discussed with your healthcare provider. You can ask about tailored exercise plans. So they're the best people to say, this is what your weeks are going to look like, or your days are going to look like, and help you find ways around the schedules. They'll be able to give you those personalized recommendations, advice, exercise plans, perhaps even a mental health plan if that's the area you struggle with, and then hopefully that can be addressed. Mental health counseling is so important. It can be the most valuable resource during holiday season because there are people there to offer support and tools to navigate the unique challenges we face at this time of year. So mental health struggles are important to discuss if you have unresolved family dynamics, elevated levels of stress. Counseling provides a really safe, comfortable, non-judgmental space to actually express your emotions around this time of year. They're also fantastic people to discuss setting boundaries and managing expectations and creating realistic goals for the season. So sometimes we don't know what being realistic with our expectations look like. They're the best people to discuss that with from an outside lens, thereby helping with reducing overwhelm. So counselors can also teach stress reduction techniques, mindfulness, relaxation exercises to just help with that feeling of being grounded over this time of year. So opening the floor to you guys, what does self-care mean to you? Does anyone have anything they do for themselves that brings them a lot of joy? Any hobbies? I know gardening for one, people get a lot of enjoyment out of baking, pottery. And it's okay if we actually don't know what brings us joy, or if we don't have a hobby, that's absolutely fine, because this could be a time of year to actually explore these things that bring you joy and try different things. It can be important equally to just take a step back and setting time in your schedule for reading, crafting, watching festive movies, if that's something you personally like to do, listening to music, or even just spending time in nature. These are some of the things that can bring us joy. It's unique to everyone, but make sure that you are using this time of the year to actually um, engage in those things. Overdoing it again has a lot of physical implications, and if we can avoid that, these are the practices that are going to make this holiday season a lot more enjoyable for you. So I mentioned there's a lot of support services out there for you. You're never alone in terms of what you're feeling at this time of the year. Lifeline, we have a number for them. That's 131114. They do provide 24/7 crisis support and suicide prevention strategies. They're very well known for their helpline and connecting with people in distress. They do have very well trained volunteers or counselors, and it's such a safe space to actually start with in terms of sharing concerns, sharing anything about mental health issues, loneliness, and stress. Friendline, if anyone's heard of it, their number is 1-800-424-287. They're basically a service that's focused on combating social isolation and loneliness. So it could be a really great service at this time of the year. They provide just a friendly ear for people who just want someone to talk to. Unlike crisis lines, then they want to cater to those who are seeking meaningful, ongoing conversations, especially if you're feeling a little bit disconnected or disengaged during these holidays. And then Salvation Army, I'm sure we've seen their stores and we have one in our local area, but they're a global charitable organization. They provide such a wide range of support services and run holiday specific programs. So if you've never been involved in one of their programs, it could be a good time of year to actually try one out, like Christmas gift dives. They offer meal services for underserved communities. So you can connect with them and see what's happening at your local Salvation Army. And so if anyone has any questions, what I want to do is actually stop the recording here. And before I do that, wish everyone who's watching this at home a very happy holiday season. If some of the topics we discussed today has raised some concerns or, instigated any kind of thoughts around holiday season, our info line is open. You can always give us a call, but I will stop the recording here. And